Welcome, folks. This is Brad.
And Ricky.
We are two Texas Jeepers broadcasting to you from North Texas. Grab a drink and follow along as we go on our next adventure. Hey there. Thanks for tuning in. This video is part 2 of our 2024 Colorado trip. The first day, we drove about 10 and a half hours to get to Fort Garland. That was so we could do Blanca Peak Trail the next morning and then head to Lake City after that. If you want to watch that video, here's the link. In Lake City, we met up with Tim and Michael and Jana at the Airbnb. We unloaded our stuff, got dinner, and just visited a little bit. This video picks up on the third day where we did the southern half of the Alpine Loop. There aren't any serious obstacles along the way, but you will get to see beautiful fall landscapes and enjoy the sound of my voice. First on the agenda was to explore Carson Ghost Town. After driving a few miles on a gravel road covered with potholes, we went south on Carson Road. This is me missing the turn and going back. Here's my buddy Tim in the green two-door Bronco. He hasn't wheeled with me before, so he doesn't know how bad my navigation skills are. His Bronco is a 22 Badlands Sasquatch. For those not familiar with the trim options, like me, that means it comes with 1 inch of lift over stock, 35s, front and rear lockers, and sway bar disconnects. So after Tim and I got turned around, we all went straight into 4 low because we could see this road starts to climb uphill at a decent grade. I'd read somewhere that there were mud holes in the beginning, but I didn't really see much mud. Certainly no holes full of it. I'm thinking that might be more of an issue in the spring when the snow melts. It was rougher than I expected, but we did see 3 or 4 full-size pickups along the way, so it wasn't really bad. Around 3.5 miles in, we got to Carson Ghost Town, and were disappointed to find it gated off with a private property sign. There were a few buildings you could see from the road, but since we couldn't get out and get close to them, we didn't hang around. Instead, we drove a little further hoping to find something else interesting. We didn't get too far before we turned back, since we still had about 30 miles of trail between us and Ouray. I do wish we'd gone another half mile up, though. We'd already climbed to about 12,000 feet, and we were right there next to the Continental Divide. After coming back down, we continued west on the Alpine Loop. The southern part that we're on takes you over several passes. Cinnamon is about 12,500 feet, California, 12,900, Hurricane, 12,600, and Corkscrew, 12,200. Don't hold me to those numbers, though. I just looked at our recorded track and rounded to the nearest 100. So, funny story here with a mountain biker. We passed her as she was pushing her bike up Cinnamon Pass, only a few minutes before we got to the top. When she got there, she went over to the sign for the pass. Michael, being a gentleman, asked if she wanted a picture in front of the sign. That's when we learned she had a cycling partner. He was already up there when we showed up, and he walked over and tried to get in the picture with her. She, kinda half joking, told him F off. She'd came up by herself and didn't want him in the picture with her. I mean, I'm not a psychologist or anything, but I don't think she liked being left behind. On the other side of Cinnamon Pass is Animas Forks. The displays there tell a story of how the town got its first cabin in 1873. In 75, it became a town, and by 76, there were 25 buildings. There's a hotel, general stores, a blacksmith, more cabins. Among the buildings still standing is a pretty impressive 2-story. William and Mary Duncan built it in 1879, and then, only 5 years later, they left. At its height, there were 450 summer residents. I didn't see a number, but apparently a lot less stayed here in the winter. That's no surprise because a winter storm could drop as much as 5 feet of snow. An avalanche from all that snow could prevent travel in and out of the valley for months. The winter of '84 had a really bad storm. I'm talking 1884, way before the best rock music was made. That storm lasted 23 days and dropped 25 feet of snow. The folks that stayed for the winter had to dig tunnels between the buildings since the doors were all buried. Then, in the early 1900s, the price dropped for precious metals, and in particular, silver. Profits from the mine decreased, and Animas Forks quickly became a ghost town. The rest of the Alpine loop out to the $1 Million Highway is more of the same. Here you can see Lake Como down below. Poughkeepsie Gulch is a trail that runs right next to it, and the wall is back down in here somewhere. We'll do that trail in a couple of days. We only stayed in Lake City for one day and would be getting a new Airbnb in Ouray. Day 4 of the trip was originally going to go from Ouray to the top of Ouray Pass, then back the way we came to Black Bear Pass. We'd go down into Telluride, grab lunch, then head back out on Imogene. But about a month before the trip, storms and subsequent mudslides took out sections of Black Bear and Imogene. So the new plan, after spending the night in Ouray, was to go to the top of Imogene Pass, then turn around and do Yankee Boy Basin. You get to either one of them by taking Camp Bird Road out of Ouray. For a little variety, we stayed to the left on Camp Bird Road instead of following the sign to the right for Imogene. The little bit of Imogene Pass that we'd miss by going this way, we'd go back over on the way back out. I don't think this is a private road, but I was wondering since you drive past what looks like an active mine and a couple of houses. There was also a gate on the other end that had been knocked down. Trails Off-Road has this trail listed, but Trails Off-Road also made no mention of Carson Ghost Town being private property. So I don't think it was private property, but if I'm wrong, I apologize. Along the way, there was some discussion of the proper technique for using the parking brake after Michael shared the wisdom of the internet.
So Brad, I've been studying my habits, and my actual parking brake technique is foot on the brakes, I shift in the park, keep the foot on the brake, set the parking brake, and then let my foot off the brake. And my understanding is that still keeps too much pressure on the parking pin, at least from listening to all the people on the forum.
So what are you supposed to do?
They want you to let off in neutral with the parking brake set before you go to the park? Yes, so you essentially move to neutral with your foot on the brake, set the parking brake hard, and then move it to park, because they say it's that rollback or that pull at the beginning, right when you put it into park if you're on a steep grade that breaks that.
Armed with this knowledge, my technique for the rest of the trip became foot on brake pedal, transmission to park, engage the parking brake, realize that I'd done it wrong, release the parking brake, shift to neutral, engage parking brake, shift back to park, release brake pedal. Several times along here, I was thinking about the first time we came out and did this trail. Our Jeep was still stock, and we were pretty inexperienced. I was trying to remember if Imogene was this rough back then. If anybody runs this pass regularly, let me know. I'm honestly curious if it's gotten worse over the last 4 years, because I think it has. On that trip, we did go down into Telluride and came back on this from the opposite direction. When we got to this bridge, there was a young woman next to it holding a baby. There weren't any vehicles around, and I kind of got a creepy Deliverance vibe, but it turns out nobody was trying to myrtleize us. Rather, her boyfriend had just gotten stuck further up the hill. He had planned a little getaway and rented a cabin and an SUV that he wound up getting high-centered on a log. So she walked down looking for help while he tried to get it unstuck. We went up, winched him off the log, and then kept going. But I remember thinking as we were continuing out to Ouray, I don't know how they made it up as far as they had. We finally made it to Posa Rock, and honestly, the real reason I wanted to do this trail again. The first time we were here, we took a few shots, and then later I realized how lame they looked. I was so far back from the edge. This time, I tell you what, it does not feel good giving it throttle when you can see there is a massive drop off on the other side of your hood. I think I got about 2.5 feet from the edge and just sat there with it in park, parking brake on and my foot pressing on the brake pedal the whole time. From there, we continued up a few minutes to the top of the pass and checked out the overlook. Surprisingly, it was not windy when we got there, so we took the opportunity to make lunch and walk around. We couldn't go much further because they'd closed the trail somewhere in the middle. After the break, we headed back down the same way we came towards Ouray and Yankee Boy Basin.
Nice.
Yeah, let's keep tapping that rear skid plate.
Yeah.
When we got to the bottom of Yankee Boy Basin, a couple of folks in side-by-sides were coming back down. They stopped us to let us know that a BMW of some sort thought they had the clearance to go up. After a little ways, they realized they were in over their head and wanted off the mountain. Instead of finding a place to turn around, they were trying to back all the way down. They also wouldn't stop to let people get past them. So these guys got tired of backing up and waiting and backing up some more and turned around themselves. After getting the scoop, we turned around too and went to Governor Basin instead. It was mostly just gravel road with another active mine of some sort near the end. We did the customary group picture, then headed back to town. So that's it for days 3 and 4. Hopefully I'll be able to knock out the final video for the trip pretty quick since I already have some of the prep work done. In that one, we'll be doing Mineral Creek and Poughkeepsie Gulch, which are a couple of my favorites. Until next time, thanks for watching and take care.